immigration attorneys are calling this unprecedented. 18 immigration court judges fired by the Trump administration, including 2 here in the Bay Area. Now, our investigative team, through multiple sources, confirmed the identity of those 2 local judges. They're Judge Deiss of San Francisco and Judge Kyra Lilien of Concord. The 18 firings nationwide all happened within this past week. The union that represents court judges say at least some of the dismissals were without cause. Local attorneys say they are stunned.
Very unusual, even for this president. So in the last Trump administration, several judges resigned because they didn't like some of the internal policies that were being put upon them. But we didn't see a large scale firing or, veiled threats or memos coming down, pressuring judges to make decisions in a certain way that was favorable to the government. And even during the first administration, they were hiring judges, not firing judges.
All right, we want to bring in our investigative producer, Michael Bott. Michael, I know you've been working on this. What do we know about the 2 judges dismissed? Do we know if they were fired without cause?
So, like most of the judges fired since last week, it doesn't sound like either of these judges were told exactly why they were being fired. But it is important to point out their circumstances are a bit different. Judge Lilien, like most of these judges getting let go, is still on her 2-year probation period with the department. So it's easier for the administration to let judges like her go. But Judge Deiss is another story. She's been a judge for 8 years and is well out of that 2-year probationary period. So her firing has a lot of attorneys and advocates rattled, thinking that this is just the tip of the iceberg and that more veteran immigration judges could potentially be next in line to get the axe.
Now, boy. So we got to talk about some woke activist immigration judges out of San Francisco that are upset over being fired by the Trump administration for not doing their jobs. Okay, now these activist judges are going to pretend to be innocent and these firings are solely political, right? And it's like, well, if you actually look into the most probable reason in regards to why they were fired, I mean, it's very clear that, again, they weren't doing their jobs, which is to use the law, to apply the law, okay, in a fair way to determine whether or not illegal immigrants who are seeking asylum should be allowed to stay in the country. Are their asylum claims legit? And it just so happens that these judges had higher rates of approving asylum claims, like much higher rates than the rest of the country. And it's no real secret because they were clearly not applying the law or interpreting the law correctly when it comes to these asylum cases. They were being woke activists and letting their feelings and their emotions dictate whether or not somebody should stay in the country rather than whether or not they had a legitimate asylum claim.
Some of those attorneys that you spoke to say that these dismissals could be related to these particular judges' asylum approval rates. In other words, were they giving asylum more than compared to the national average? Is that the allegation?
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody knows for sure exactly why they were fired, but many of the people we spoke to do believe these firings are politically motivated and that the administration is likely targeting judges who aren't facilitating the president's deportation goals. Now, most of the people in front of immigration judges these days are seeking asylum, and like most Bay Area immigration judges, Judge Deiss and Judge Lilien both have asylum grant rates that are considered high, particularly Judge Deiss in comparison to other immigration judges across the country.
How out of the ordinary is it to have this kind of dismissals, not only the 2 here, but 18 so quickly in such a short period of time?
Yeah, absolutely. Advocates and attorneys we spoke to say this is extremely unprecedented. According to many we spoke to, there's actually been a concerted effort in recent years to hire more judges since we have a huge backlog of cases in immigration court. There are 3.5 million open cases, and it can take years for these cases to be resolved and work their way through the system. When I'm in court, I see judges routinely scheduling next hearings for 2-3 years down the line. I mean, they even opened a new immigration courthouse in Concord recently to help address the backlog. So this has a lot of people scratching their heads as to why are we now firing immigration judges in the middle of this record backlog.
Oh God, why are we now firing immigration judges in the middle of this huge backlog? Well, bro, you answer your own question. You answered your own question because you said that these immigration judges have rates of asylum approval that are much higher than the national average. So I want to talk about this specific immigration judge that was fired, coming out and boohoo whining and crying, right? She's crying foul, okay, over being fired. But then when you listen to her rate of asylum approval versus the national average, you're going to understand immediately why this judge was fired, because she's not being a judge, she's being an activist. So without further ado, let's get into it.
8 years as an immigration judge, 25 years of service to the federal government, and she was fired in a 3-sentence email. The Trump administration is seemingly purging immigration judges across the country. Among them, Judge Deiss, who was terminated in San Francisco late last week. Tonight, she is sharing her story, warning investigative reporter Hilda Gutierrez that she believes the court's independence is in serious jeopardy. Hilda joins us now, and that is a provocative statement, Hilda.
She's never talked to the press until now. Judge Deiss is still processing and trying to make sense of what happened, but says this is too important to stay silent.
For the past few months, it's been anything but normal at San Francisco's immigration court.
Stay back. Stay back.
ICE agents arresting migrants after their hearings, sparking clashes with protesters. And it's not just immigrants. The Trump administration also appears to be targeting the judges. Dozens of them have been fired across the U.S. since January.
I'm still processing. This just happened last Thursday.
San Francisco immigration judge Deiss never thought they'd come for her. She has 25 years of service with the federal government, previously working as a federal prosecutor. Deiss has been a judge for the last 8 years.
I can still say I don't know why I was terminated. I know why I was not terminated. I know why I was not terminated for any lack of ethics or integrity or efficiency.
Is this common that judges get dismissed or let go?
No.
For Judge Deiss, the axe came last Thursday in the form of a 3-sentence email. The Attorney General has decided to remove you from your position, the email stated. Your removal is effective today. Her mind immediately turned to the pending case she was supposed to review that afternoon.
Well, the first thing I was thinking of is that I knew that the 2 o'clock case was a case that had been waiting for years. Many of the people that appear before me have to wait 5, 8, 10 years before they get a final hearing.
Many of the other judges fired under President Trump were still in their 2-year probation period, according to attorneys and judges we spoke with. But Deiss was years past that. Immigration judges are employed by the Executive Office for Immigration Review, which falls under the U.S. Department of Justice. The agency declined to comment on the dismissal. Deiss says the line between the DOJ and the Department of Homeland Security is getting blurry. ICE agents are now commonplace at immigration court, and Deiss says judges are facing political pressure.
We've just all of a sudden become political pawns, which is so sad.
Would you say there was pressure on you and other judges?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've very recently been directed how to rule on motions and how to, which would never even cross our minds before. It seems absurd.
Adding to her concern is a record-long backlog of immigration cases with more than 3 million clogging the system. Judge Deiss had about 6,000 cases on her docket alone. Many were asylum cases. According to TRAC, the Public Records Clearinghouse at Syracuse University, Judge Deiss granted asylum in about 94% of those cases over the past 5 years, significantly higher than the national average. But Deiss said,
Ding, ding, ding. Ding, 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 ding. 94% of cases she granted asylum. Now, what is the national average? What do you guys think the national average is? We talked about this, okay? How a vast majority of these asylum claims are denied, right? But during the first Trump administration, it was about 29%, right? Now, during the Biden administration, it had climbed up to as high as the 30s and the mid 40%, right, under the Biden administration, because clearly the Biden administration was hiring these woke activist judges to push the numbers up, right? Because again, you guys can see how political this stuff is, right? In the sense that any administration can influence the rate at which you have asylum seekers come into the country and have their asylum claims approved based off the ideology of the judges. So these liberal judges are going to be more likely to approve these asylum claims, and this is why you're seeing the numbers go up. But my point is this. On average, it's about 38 to 46% approval for fully adjudicated asylum claims, which again is skewed to the high range because of the Biden administration being in office for the last 4 years, okay, before Trump. And judges like this are the problem. How in the world are you approving 94% of cases when the national average is around 38%, right? How is that possible? Okay, how is that possible? In 2020, the denial rate reached 71%. So again, I'm trying to figure out, how is this judge, how is she only denying 6% of asylum cases? How? Unless you believe that in San Francisco, which happens to be one of the most liberal cities in the country, if not the most liberal city in the country, right? Unless you believe that it just so happens that all of the legitimate asylum seekers go to San Francisco and they see this specific judge, right? That she's being handed all the cases where you have legitimate asylum seekers. Unless you believe that, there's absolutely no way that she's doing her job correctly. There's no way. Absolutely no way. So when these judges go on national television and they want to boo-hoo on it, we're being fired for political reasons. No, you're actually being fired because you are being political. That's why. You're being fired because your emotions and your politics clearly cloud your judgment, right? And you're just allowing people to stay in the country that should not be allowed to stay in the country. There's absolutely no way that this woman's approval rate should be so high. It should not be that high over the national average. Like, that's crazy to me. It's one thing if it was 50%. I'd be like, oh, okay. Okay. Even then, again, that's high. That's real high. Even 50%, real high. But 94%? Come on. Get out of here. Like, come on. You deserve to be fired.
Says those numbers are out of context, since many factors impact asylum grant rates from judge to judge.
One, I would never apologize for being compassionate and treating people with compassion.
See, ding, ding, emotions. Your job is not to treat people with quote unquote compassion outside of the boundaries of the law, okay? Yes, it's okay to have compassion for people within the boundaries of the law, but you're also supposed to be neutral and impartial. Clearly, this lady is not being neutral and impartial. She's letting her quote unquote compassion extend outside the boundaries of the law, in which she's now basically just allowing anybody to stay in the country that she feels bad for, right? That's what's happening. She's letting her feelings and her emotions get in the way of her judgment and what she's supposed to do as a judge, how she's supposed to judge a case and whether or not somebody should be allowed to stay in the country, which again is why she has a 94% asylum approval rate, which is just absolutely ridiculous.
And two, if you don't like my decision or if it's unsound, you appeal it. And I have 98% of my cases survive on appeal, and so that says something.
Judge Deiss still can't figure out exactly.
I don't believe that. Right? These people, you know, the thing I learned about watching these news clips all the time is that these people just toss out any type of number, right? They'll say anything. Well, 98% of my cases on appeal have been successful. I don't believe that. There's absolutely zero way that that's true. Okay? Considering how the national average is, again, 38% approval, you have a 94% approval. So you mean to tell me when there's an appeal that 98% of those get approved? Nah, it's not possible. This judge is talking out of her ass.
Why she was let go. There are currently about 700 immigration judges across the U.S., and her firing comes as the recently passed Big Beautiful Bill earmarks more than $3 billion for immigration courts and allows for the hiring of about 100 more judges.
Yeah, we're going to get some actual judges in there and not activists, okay? We're going to get judges that are going to interpret the law correctly and is not going to make judgments and decisions based off their emotions and feeling bad for the illegals. That's what we're going to do, okay? So, I mean, the news is trying to pretend as if, oh, there's going to be such a big shortage. No. We're going to hire more people, right? More people are going to get in those jobs, right? We're just going to have actual judges. Again, not activists. We're getting rid of the activists and we're hiring real judges.
Deiss says she recognizes the power of her decisions and the impact on those immigrant families and their generations that follow.
These are just some of the drawings that kids do while I'm talking to their parents. And they're all filled with hearts, and I love my mom and my dad. The kids are drawing this while I'm telling their parent that they're in removal proceedings, and this is the process that you're about to embark on. And and I have piles and piles of just beautiful snippets of people's life.
Why did you decide?
Again, does anybody believe that this judge is doing her job correctly? Like, come on. Like, you have drawings from kids. Again, so this is why she has a 94% approval rate. But she's tried to claim that the Trump administration, they're being political and firing her. No, you're being political. You're a political activist. Okay, this woman might as well go be a politician, right? I mean, go work for some woke nonprofit, right? That's what you want to do. That's clearly where your heart is at. But you do not have the judgment to be a judge, right? Clearly, again, the emotions have affected her decisions, and again, that's why she got fired. It's crazy how she's not seeing that, right? Come on.
Keep those.
They're a treasure. These are the people who have come through my court, and maybe I've affected their life in some way.
Judges and attorneys who we spoke to say they are shocked by the number of immigration judges fired under the Trump administration and fear this is just the beginning. In San Francisco, Hilda Gutierrez, NBC Bay Area, we investigate.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong here. There's no scandal here outside of the fact that, again, you have these activist judges that are clearly not interpreting the law correctly, right? And they should be fired, okay? All of these firings are 100% justified. That woman was an activist, okay, no doubt. She does not belong in her position, okay? And you got to get people in there that are actually going to be fair, okay, that are actually going to interpret the law correctly and that are not going to let their emotions cloud their judgment. Like this woman clearly was letting her emotions and her feelings about the illegals, how much she loves them and their kids, cloud her judgment. That's clearly what was happening. And hey, you love to see it, right? You love to see the Trump administration cleaning house. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.